Today I've been asked to talk to you about the question of verification versus audits by the Commissioner in terms of the Tax Administration Act. For those of you, obviously, who are taxpayers and from time to time might receive notification from SARS to conduct what they call a verification or an audit. Now, what's quite interesting, everything has to be, the powers have to be given to SARS by virtue of legislation such as the Tax Administration Act. The Tax Administration Act at Section 40 specifically states, and I'm going to read off my computer here, SARS may select a person for inspection, verification, or audit on the basis of any consideration relevant for the proper administration of a tax act, including on a random or on a risk assessment basis. Then it goes on to say that in certain instances, such as a field audit, they must have written notification and written powers delegated to them by the Commissioner, which is dealt with in Section 41. And then the important section is Section 42, keeping the taxpayer informed. Now here, SARS seems to draw a distinction between a verification and an audit. And so let's just quickly look at what is the difference. From a practical point of view, the way we look at it is that a verification is when SARS sends a notice either to your tax advisor or to yourself, questioning a particular item that might have appeared on your tax return, and then they are wanting to verify whether or not that particular number is correct, and they may, for instance, ask you for certain vouchers, invoices, or whatever, receipts, or whatever the case may be. Now, if they come back and accept everything as it is, and there's no further questioning, that verification is simply what we understand it to be, a verification, and that is to verify against information something that exists. And they seem to think under those circumstances they don't have to give you this Section 42 notification to keep you informed. And that seems to make practical sense, because if there is going to be no adjustment to your tax affairs or to your tax return or to the tax assessment that has been raised against you, there's no need to correspond any further. But then there is an issue of audits. And so here they attempt to draw the distinction that if the verification has been to simply ask you for information which they verify, and they see something then is wrong, or they interpret something as being wrong, and they adjust your assessment, they will then simply say, well, we're entitled to do that without issuing you what we call out of the tax administration a letter of findings. And a letter of findings is something which you're supposed to receive at the conclusion of an audit, explaining to you precisely which facts SARS is relying upon, which law they're applying, and why they believe what you have done is incorrect, so that you're given an opportunity to respond to that. They cannot just simply issue an assessment. So what are they doing is, if it's a verification audit where they now take the next step and make an adjustment to your assessment, they're saying, because it's a mere verification, we're not in a position where we have to grant you this letter of findings. And what they're trying to do there is to say that, and I'm going to read this to you, that the audit identified potential adjustments of a material nature. SARS must, within 21 business days or a further period that may be required based on the complexities of the audit, provide the taxpayer with a document containing the outcome of the audit, including the grounds of the proposed assessment. So SARS is saying, if we term the document or notice we're sending to you as a verification, that's not an audit. And therefore, it doesn't matter what we do, we don't have to send you this notice. Now, that doesn't make sense, and that's also not fair. And so I'm holding this big book here, and it's the compact edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, which contains a tremendous amount of definitions for each word, and one actually literally needs a microscope. So you're going to please excuse me as I now look at extracts from this particular dictionary, and to tell you what an audit means versus a verification. So if we look at this large dictionary and we look at what is the definition of an audit, it's the official examination of accounts with verification by reference to witnesses and vouchers. That sounds to me like a verification. Or is it an audit? Well, it really does seem to cover both. Then let's take a look at what verification means. And verification is actually a lot more detailed. The word verification means the action of demonstrating or proving to be true or legitimate by means of evidence or testimony, formal assertion of the truth, demonstration of truth or correction by facts or circumstances. The action of establishing or testing the truth or correctness of a fact theory statement by means of special investigation or comparison of data. So the two words sound very similar to me. In fact, verification seems to be a lot more detail in the definition of verification than on the definition of audit. So really, whether SARS terms it as a verification or as an audit, in our view, quite frankly, it most likely is within the ambit of an audit if one considers these definitions that come out of the Oxford Dictionary. And from that point of view, they are duty bound to issue you with a letter of findings. If you find yourself in a position where they have now gone and amended your assessments without issuing a letter of findings, then you would definitely fall under the policy which is issued by Great Soft, and that policy will pay for any legal representation and accounting representation that you need and require in order to reverse the unlawful and invalid conduct of SARS in changing your assessment without issuing a letter of findings first. So really, there really is very little difference between the meaning of verification and audit. As I said to you earlier, if it's a mere verification and they do nothing, well, nothing else needs to be done. But if it is termed as a verification and they change your assessment without issuing a letter of findings, then you would qualify for the representation allowance that the insurance policy or tax risk insurance policy will provide you. Until next time, goodbye.